Alright folks, here we are back at the shop. We got another one of these Poulan Counter Vibe. A little different than the last one. I believe this was a little newer. This particular model is a 4200. We're going to check it out. Customer says it won't run. A couple things I noticed right off the bat. One, this unit doesn't have a manual oiler like the last one that we worked on, but it is a lot similar in looks. Customer indicated that this saw run about a year ago, but it took 3 different people pulling on it to get it started. Also indicated that the saw leaks oil and leaks gas. So first thing we're going to do is pull the bar off of it and try to crank it. I always like to pull the bar off of it. If you've been following my videos, you know that. So let's go ahead and get started right here. So we'll go ahead now and remove the bar. Now, unlike the last one that we did, the bar tensioner is not in the housing. I do notice something right off the bat I want to show you on this chain. See if I can find it again, right there. Let me zoom this in where you can see. Let's get over here where we got some better light at. You see that link right there? That link is about to come apart. Now when you observe that link from this side, you can tell that that's where somebody put that chain together. And that chain is just before coming apart. You got to be real careful who you let put these chains together. You see that gap? That chain comes apart while you're using it, you could have a lot of trouble. And that's not from excessive wear of a chain. That's where somebody took a link out or put this chain together initially. You can tell by, if you look at that, that's a factory brad. And that's where somebody done the link. That is not safe. So if we reuse this chain, which we probably will, we will definitely have to fix that. That is not acceptable. We'll inspect the rest of the chain when we get to that point. The unit does have a hard nose bar, which means it don't have a roller tip in it. It's got a laser etch piece. The bar visual sight seems to be in pretty good shape. So we'll probably dress that bar up and reuse it. There's no reason not to. While we're at this point, we'll look at the sprocket and inspect it. The sprocket appears to be in excellent shape. I don't see anything wrong with that sprocket. So now that we've got all that apart, we're going to go ahead and check and see if it's got fuel in it. If it does, we'll attempt to go ahead and fire it up and see what we got. If not, then we'll go ahead and inspect that fuel line since we're already in the tank. Before we check out fuel, one thing I noticed right off the bat, there's some type of ground wire that comes from here to here, and that isn't even tight. May not have nothing to do with it, but we're going to go ahead and tighten that up before we proceed any further. Alright, let's see if we got any gas. That seal's definitely damaged, so we'll have to do something about that before we put it back together after we get it running. Otherwise it'll steadily pour fuel. Alright, the unit does have fuel. It's not much. Let's pull that fuel line out while we're here. Alright. Seeing that fuel line tells us at some point somebody has definitely been in the saw. That is not an original fuel line. So we know that this saw has been worked on. Look like the line's been there a while. It's not a brand new line, but the line feels good inside the tank. So we're going to go ahead and put the fuel cap back on. We're going to try to start the saw. we get nothing. So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take this top off, put a spark tester on it. Let's see if we got any spark. Very similar inside to that last Poulan Vibe that we worked on. We're gonna pull that wire and put a tester on it, see if we get any fire. If we do, then we're gonna pull that plug out and look at it. Then we'll go on down to the carb. Damn, I might take it off that counter. That baby has got some compression. And we do have plenty of fire. Next thing we'll do is check the spark plug. Make sure it ain't too fouled up. And it looks alright. It doesn't look burnt. I would say the plug's probably not that old. Now if you'll remember, on the last one, we ended up finding out it was hard to start because there was trash between the coil and the flywheel. So before it's over with, we more than likely will remove this cover and check that. But after observing that plug and seeing no fuel in the cylinder, first we're going to move forward on the carb. And next we're going to remove this air filter where we can see underneath it. See what kind of carb we're working with. That air filter definitely had to be cleaned, possibly even replaced. Alright, I got the carb off of it, and it has a Tillotson carb, which is not uncommon for this aerosol. So we're going to open this carb up and let's see what the inside looks like. Put a little cleaner through it. See what we got. I'll show it to you once I get it opened up. Alright, I've now separated the carburetor into all of its individual components. The carb was dry inside, so it's not pulling any fuel. But one of the things I noticed when I pulled the bottom off was all this varnish that's in there on the intake. A lot of that. We're going to blow it out with some carb cleaner, clean it out with some air, put it back together and see where we're at. I did notice that the valves and the diaphragm all seem to be plenty flexible, so I don't think any of those are the issue. So we'll clean her apart, put her back together and see what we got. Alright, I've reassembled the carb, cleaned it. We're going to reinstall it on the unit and let's see what we got. Alright, I've replaced the carb back on the unit, and in doing so the fuel line split. The old line wasn't in that bad a shape, but I probably could have just trimmed it off and went with it, but I didn't want to take a chance, so I went ahead and put a fuel line in. And if you remember earlier, I showed you that gasket that went around that fuel cap was ruptured. So I picked up a new one today. We're going to go ahead and install it, put some gas in the unit and see if it'll crank. So now we put the gas cap on with the new seal, which seems to be holding. Installed the fuel line. We cleaned the tank. Installed the new carb. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to try to fire it up and let's see if it'll crank. And that right there is why I make the big money.